Yo, Ty Van, aka Teddy Crucifix, aka your pastor's favorite rapper. We got Byron L. Cogdell nodding his head, and this is He's the Pastor. I'm the Rapper, the remote version, episode 2. You're going crazy with them all years. All right, and we got the Drapes, Melodies from Heaven. That's the sound. That's what we're going to name that song, the Melodies from Heaven. Is that what it is? That's what we're going to name it. That's what it is right now.
It's actually not a melody, which is the funny part.
I know. It's nowhere near a melody, but that's what that sound is via Ty Van.
Whenever you do the intro, do you introduce me? Or I've never really listened to the intro.
I said the same thing. So the intro is, this is Ty Van, aka Teddy Crucifix, aka your pastor's favorite rapper. We got Byron L. Cogdell. I said.
Oh yeah. Okay. I never listened to it. I never paid attention to it. So
that would be very selfish though. If I just went into my whole intro, it's just like, I don't care about you. This is me.
Because I was sitting here thinking like, am I supposed to be like, and I'm Byron, blah, blah, blah? Because if so, I missed that whole thing.
I'm going to tell you what happened. So if you look at the first episode, we didn't know what we were doing, right? The second episode, the second and third episode, we were trying to figure it out. I used to throw you the alley to do what you just saying, and you never did it. So I just took over it. So if you can look at the line of it. The fourth episode, I just took over and just started saying your intro. But I was trying to throw you the alley the second, the third episode.
Hey man, I'm not good at alleys.
Oh, it's all good. But you want to be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's.
I'm good at throwing alleys. I'm just not good at catching them. You're right. So maybe I shouldn't be Kareem. Maybe I should be Magic.
Ooh, I hope he doesn't watch this.
Who, Magic Johnson?
Yeah.
Boy, if Magic Johnson watched this, come on, bro.
Hey, I don't like your faith. Oh, ye of little faith. Hey, as you grow,
faith.
he may come across one of the episodes and he may want to binge, and then he may see this episode and feel some type of way. So, Magic, if you come across this, I have nothing to do with what my pastor just said.
I just gave him a shout out. Magic Johnson is one of the greatest assist people ever to play the game.
But you say he can't catch an alley.
I didn't say he couldn't catch an alley. I said I'm not good at catching alleys, so maybe I'm more like Magic because he has the assist.
You're right. So I want to repent. I was wrong. I apologize for being wrong. I took the joke in another way. So I was wrong.
Speaking of I apologize, you can stream it on.
I apologize.
Is that joke done?
No, it's never going to be. As long as it's on streaming platforms, I'm saying that to the death of that song, which is now never going to happen.
I got it. Sounds good to me.
Hey, bro. How do you look at your end? Because you're pixelated now on my end. We're doing this remote. We're trying to figure it out.
I don't seem pixelated on my end.
As long as you don't seem pixelated on your end, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So if you don't know, maybe you haven't caught the last episode yet, but we are doing this podcast remote, at least for the next week or so. So, Hey, what's funny is I talked to your homeboy, Charles. Should I say his name out loud? I talked to your homeboy, Charles, a few months ago or a month and a half ago.
Wait, what's Charles?
Like that.
Which one?
That you went to high school with.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and he thought that the podcast was remote the whole time. He was like, I didn't know y'all were in the same room. I was like, yeah, same blinds and everything.
What?
Yeah. So I wonder if there are other people. There might be other people who thought we were doing it from 2 different locations.
Bro, both of us look crazy we look like Mario and Luigi from 1989 Nintendo.
That's that Spectrum.
No, on my end.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's that Spectrum internet. You got that low-fi package.
I probably do. So it's like I said, as long as we look good on your end, that's all that matters. But
we're fine. So look, we already wasted 4 minutes of y'all's time.
As we always do.
As we always do. We always ask each other what's been going on with us, but we just talked a couple of days ago. So we already know what's going on with us. We want to ask what's going on with y'all. Drop something in the comments. Y'all show immense love in the last 2 episodes, just saying y'all are grateful that we're back and y'all are grateful that we're continuing with the podcast. But we want to know in the comments, how are you doing? What's going on in your life? How can we be thinking about y'all and praying for y'all? And always, what do we ask? If there's something y'all want us to talk about, let us know, because we don't think of everything. Sometimes we just talk about the same stuff over and over. So speaking of Lecrae, no, I'm sorry. Speaking of Christian hip hop,
But speaking of people dropping subject titles, I think last episode we read a message from someone that submitted a topic. I want to read
Yeah.
that again. Maybe we could go somewhere with that. Um, it's from Kim Thomas. She wrote
Okay.
on the Pastor Rapper podcast from Instagram. Follow us on Instagram if you're not. Pastor Rapper
For sure.
podcast.
Yeah.
Good morning. I have a topic idea that I would like. I'm sorry. Good morning. I have a topic idea that I would love to hear your take on. With many churches now streaming their services online due to the pandemic, Lord Jesus help me. Many are choosing to only attend online. Is this right? Overall, thank you, Kim Thomas. I slotted your
Shout out.
message. I'm sorry.
Shout out to
Wait,
Kim Thomas.
so how
This
did
is probably the worst reading of a message I've ever heard in my life, though. So shout out to
hey
Ty.
hey you know I'm fallible,
Yeah. So
as you
her
can
so
see right there.
basically her message was about, churches streaming, and what did she say? What's the purpose of the church?
Oh no, she ain't saying nothing about purpose. We were just
Okay.
saying, if I slide this again, excuse my fallibility. But with many churches now streaming their service online due to the pandemic, many are choosing to only attend online. Is that right or wrong? So,
Oh, okay. Is it right or
it
wrong?
just seems like she has has a genuine concern about the situation that we're in. That's obviously affecting us in real time. That's why we're
Yeah.
doing it remote. We're doing this podcast remote. So I guess there's a lot of people. Some churches being open, they're still taking the option to, go to church online. So her
Right.
question is that okay? Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry, is that right or wrong?
Yeah. I
So
don't
with
know.
you being a pastor, my brother,
Hmm. Yeah,
oh
I
yeah,
have a pastoral answer, but I don't want to like jump straight to that because we end a lot of episodes quickly when we do that. But let's talk about the bigger issue of like living as a Christian during the pandemic. Like I think that's hard enough, right? And the Christian life isn't. If you've read the Bible, like the Christian life isn't promised to be good all the time. Like it's a life of struggle. And I think the root of her question is what it's like to be a Christian. Is God? What do I say this fairly often? God tells us where to go a lot of the times without giving us GPS how to get there, right? And when I emphasize that, I'm just saying like a lot of times there are things that we know God is pushing us to. We just don't have the every detail of the answer, and that's why God pushes us to get wisdom, right? Wisdom from the Bible, wisdom from other believers. So I want to applaud her for even thinking about that because a lot of us don't even think about it. Have you thought about
hit
it?
that
Have you
button.
thought about the fact that we've been going to church online for over a year, and like have you wrestled with that at all?
Of course, I thought about it. I say my answer, hit that applaud button, my brother. You said you want to apply for that. You know what I'm saying? Give her her.
Bro, I never know the buttons. I'm sorry, Miss Thomas. I'm sorry.
But of course, I've thought about that. I mean, and being frank, I'm sorry, but I'm an honest person. I hate online church. I hate it with a passion because I'm a social butterfly, as they say. I
Hey,
like to be around people.
let me
Go
stop
ahead.
you right there though, because I don't know if people know this about you. You say you hate online church, but Ty also hates worship. So
Oh,
what's
I
the
hate it
what's the
with a
middle
passion.
ground? What's the middle ground there?
Oh, wait. Let me give some clarity on that. I hate, and that's a strong word. Maybe I dislike or find an uncomfortability with the music aspect of worship because
Okay.
being a Christian, my life should resemble worship to our Father. So I
Right.
don't hate worship in the aspect of what we should be doing it as a Christian, but the music aspect of the church tradition of worship, I be feeling crazy. And we talked about that. I don't know if you want me to go why I feel like that. Do you want me to
Well,
expound on
no,
that?
I mean you can, but I just think it's very interesting because Ty's like, I want to go to church, but if you see Ty in church, his experience is very like internal, right? Like so if you were to walk in our church and we were live, Ty would just be sitting there like he's engaged, but he's like taking it all in. Like he's just like
This is
he ain't
true.
jumping up, running around the church. He ain't giving me no amens. He ain't standing up like this during worship, like none of that. Like he's just like
This is
so.
true. And
So I thought you would love online church, to be honest.
I'm gonna tell you, bro, and again, just being honest, it's because I'm not around the energy of the people, because being around
Yeah,
people, it brings a different kind of energy. You see, again, I have to be honest. I'll turn the camera off sometimes because I get tired because there's no energy there. Now,
yeah,
don't get me wrong, Pastor Byron has great energy when he preaches, but you still can't. I guess the best way for me to explain it is if you watch a concert online or someone's performance at an award show online, you can being there versus
hmm
watching it. It's two totally different
yeah.
experiences.
I
Like
agree.
there's some performances you're going to watch it and you still feel it. It's like, oh, that was a good performance. But being there, there's nothing comes second to none to that. So it's the same
Mhm.
thing for me when it comes to church. Um, because I take a lot of things internal. Like Byron has said, if when we start to have a service in person, if you were to see me in person, you'll probably think like he's bored or whatever like that. That's just my personality type, but I'm
Ty
not
has
bored. I
definitely
need to
gone to
be around that.
sleep. He's definitely gone to
Yeah,
sleep during a sermon or two.
I've expressed that to him. I mean, I felt bad, but I'm an honest person, so I've told him, I'm like, bro, like it be hard sometimes. Like if you see my camera off, I'm asleep because it's like I'm falling asleep. Like I
It's
need the
terrible.
energy. So no, it is terrible. I'm not going to even make an excuse for it. It's horrible, but it's the
Yeah.
truth. So yeah, I don't like online church. I know, with what's going on, I don't think stopping church completely is the answer either. So we have to this weird situation right now. It's like we're figuring it out as we're going. So,
Yeah.
some people are opening churches partially. And I know when we open up partially, I'm definitely going to, have my reservation or RSVP to be there because, again, I need to be there.
Yeah.
But that's just me. So, yeah.
Yeah. I've gone this is my personal answer. I've gone I typically do not like online church. I mean, even before the pandemic, there were some churches that had online church, and I don't even call it online church. I don't think you can have church online. Well, let me I kind of
Go
hesitate in
ahead.
saying that. I
Yeah, go
think
ahead.
I think what we're doing right now, what we do as a church family, I think that is church online. But what
I agree.
most people call church online is watch what we're doing in the building or watch the recording of what we did on Wednesday, right? And that's not church. Like me watching you perform a sermon, me watching y'all sing songs that you pre-recorded or maybe you're recording live, me just standing on the outskirts and viewing the worship gathering via technology, to me that's not church. Because the very nature of the church is to gather, is to assemble. Like the church is the called out ones who have assembled together, right? We have this mutual thing that we are surrounding ourselves, or we are surrounding in because it's the center of it all, and that we are sharing in our worship together. Now, can that be? Can we do that and not be face to face? Yeah, we can. I mean, the Bible says that we will worship with the saints that have gone on, right? Like there is a universal church of believers who have died, right? And we worship with them when we do some of the same things that we do. That's why we do the Lord's Prayer every week at our church right now, is because this is a prayer that saints have said for centuries, right? We're joining in worship with them as we do it in a symbolic way, I would say. But I don't think it makes sense to go to church from your living room if all you're doing is like viewing. If you're not interacting, I don't think it's church. On the flip side, there are a lot of us that go to a building and all we do is view. And I don't think that's church either.
I'm glad you brought that up. And I know this podcast is going off the question, online church or whatnot. But what you just said, I have to say something. Me personally, not gonna knock anyone that goes to a big church. I'm not gonna knock big churches, but me personally, I for the most part grew up in a big church or a mega church. Like you said, you can follow it if you're not active and you're not being intentional and deliberate about being a part of small groups and doing things outside of the big service. it can fall into that routine of what you just said. Like you could, yeah, you could still be going to church, but you're not interacting. So yeah, you went to church, but like what impact is it having on you? Again, I'm speaking on my personal. I don't like mega churches. I like, don't get me wrong. I want Identity Church to grow, but I like the setup that we have because it's so intimate. I know everyone in the church. If someone's
Yeah.
not at the church, we realize that.
Yeah.
And if they are going missing for 2 or 3 weeks, we're gonna be
We're
like,
like,
hey,
where's such and such at? Have you talked to him? What is he going
correct.
through? Yeah.
You at a
Yeah.
big church. So imagine being at a big church and you're going through like the roughest patch of your life. Now,
Right.
granted, it's still on that person, like I said, to engage. But say you haven't done that, and then a rough season comes. And if you just stop going to church and you were engaging before this rough patch, who's going to really be reaching out to you from that church? And again, I'm not
Right.
putting that on the church, but I'm saying that's something you can fall into being at a big church. So,
Right.
like you said,
Yeah.
I agree. You could be going to church physically and still not be engaging.
Yeah. I think there's some practical aspects to it. And then I think there's also just some spiritual aspects to it. So, like, the practical aspect is kind of what you hinted on. Like, me as a pastor, I only have the capability of loving, shepherding, caring for, talking to a certain number of people in my life, period, right? Without there just being too much going on. If there are 5,000 people who I'm supposed to shepherd, I'm likely not truly shepherding them well, right? Um, but when they're 30 or 50 or even 70, there are some pastors that say 70 is like the magic number, right? Where you when somebody walks in, your church doesn't look small, but you also have the opportunity to kind of know most of the people in there. If you had to ask me like what I would pray that our next phase would be, it would be that. It would be that we would be a church that's not super small, but still a church where I can walk in and be like, oh yeah, I know the Wilsons, and I know the Joneses, and I know the Dowdies, and all of those people. So I don't know if that pertains to the question, but like I do want to go back to the idea of just like online church. I think if you are going to be a part of a ministry that's online, that ministry should be interactive. That ministry should allow for you to express yourself, and it's not you just being there as a viewer, but you as a contributor, you as someone who is valuable to the worship experience. And we don't do that perfectly, but that's one of the reasons why we do what we do, which is we do church on Zoom, and we also live stream. So if you want to just watch, you can, but we do church on Zoom and we don't even call it church, do we? We say a gathering. Our gathering is
Correct.
on Zoom because we don't do church. We are the church. I know that's cliche, but it's true. We do our gathering or our assembly on Zoom because what it does is it allows for us to have interaction. We talk at the beginning. We ask each other about our lives. We express, what's going on in our hearts, our favorite meals, and then we have time for reflection and response, right? So it's not just about, hey, it's 17 people who run the service, or it's 5 people who run the service, or the gathering rather. It's all of us together. Like without one of us, we lose something, right? And the reason why I'm trying to be so adamant about not saying service and not saying church is because the Bible never describes church as a service, and it never
Mm,
describes as a building or a service. It describes the church as an assembly. As an assembly, that's what the church is. It's an assembly. It's a gathering of believers.
that's deep. Even like some things but when there's like words for it. Like you just, I don't know, in my mind you just put words for that. Like the
Yeah,
church, when we assemble, it's just the church assembling. We're not going to church. We're going to an assembly,
yeah,
an assembly as the church. So that's deep, man.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
just like when you
Oh,
were
go ahead.
I was
Go
just
ahead.
gonna say it's just like when you were in school, right? Like the school, you got the school, but like the building doesn't make the school. The school is when the teachers and the students and the administrators are all there together. And guess what? Every once in a while, you had to have an assembly where everybody in the school came together and there was this one message or these few messages that were given to everybody. And then what happens after that? You go back to your classroom. And I
Correct.
think that's a good way for us to look at the church is like, or look at our gatherings. Is Sunday is our assembly. Is when everybody comes back together to hear, whatever this main message is, to see each other and share, and whatever we're sharing in. And then throughout the week, we're in smaller groups, we're individual, we're living out our ministry in our homes and in our neighborhoods and all those type things.
Yeah, man. Hey, something you said I just wanted to bring light to. When you said your vision for identity is to get to about 70, and then like so
For
you're
our
not too
next
big or
phase,
too
at
small.
least.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry for so for the next phase. There is a church that my friend works at. She works for Salty Services, but that's also a
Hmm.
church. They do that. Once their church gets to a certain number, um
Let's
I guess
plant
the
another
pastor
church.
acts, yeah, he acts as a bishop, and I guess whoever is under him that he feels is ready to have a church, he appoints them to a church. And then, like I said, so the pastor acts as a bishop, because that's what a bishop does, right? It's like
That's
you have different
essentially,
people.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's more, but I'm just saying that's a part of what a bishop does. You send someone else out to start a church. And
Yeah.
when she told me that, I was like, that is so dope. So you don't
Yeah.
have, it's like, yeah, you have a big church feel, but you're
Yeah.
you're still catering to the church, the people, the I don't know. When I heard that, I thought
That's
that
the
was so
way
dope. And I
that's the way it should go, and that's biblical. That's biblical, right? So like I think about this a lot because I think about what direction we'll go in the future. Think about this. What if identity, well, not what if. When the Lord blesses us with growth, let's just say we grow to 200 in the next year. But then we sit down and look at it and realize, oh, 75 of this 200 is coming from the land. Now we could make the decision and just say, well, let's just try to keep going, right? Or we could say there are 75 people coming from the land. We already have this person, and this person who lives out that way. These persons are leaders. Let's not like continue to try to get people from the land. Let's bless that leader, allow for them to lead an assembly there, and we be partnering in our sharing of the gospel and our uplifting of Christians, right? Like I think that's extremely biblical. That's what we see all throughout the Bible. When you read the book of Corinthians or you read the book of Colossians, they're not writing to one church. They're writing to a gang of different churches. And Paul is like, let me just write this one letter, and y'all, 6 churches, pass this around. That's why, like in the book of Colossians, there's a word about Laodicea, which is a small little town in the area of Colossae. And he says to pass this letter to them, right? Like it's biblical. This is what we should all be doing. But instead, we like to just kind of continue building, 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 building. And what happens in that is Jesus glorified? Yeah. In a lot of places he is. Are people coming to know Jesus? Yeah. In some places they people are. Are people growing in community? Are people being discipled? I don't know. And that's why we've tried to create like small groups and all those type things. But really and truly, we should implement this in the beginning and not try to fix the problem in the
there you
end.
go.
So
I agree, man. I don't have anything
church
like you
online,
said that's
we
biblical.
like are far from church online. But she asked
Oh, yeah,
a
go ahead. Yeah, go
direct.
ahead.
She
Go
asked
ahead.
a direct question, and her question was, "Is it right or wrong?"
S- you want me to
I,
answer for your answer? Because you said
you can
you
answer.
had it.
Yeah, yeah, you can answer.
So me personally, I don't think that's a right or wrong question. Um, I think
Or
everyone, if
right or
you're a
wrong answer.
Christian, you have personal convictions. There you go. You have personal convictions. Um, I think the thing that should be on the forefront of your mind is loving your neighbor. So I don't think you should be shunning someone for wanting to go and serve to have go to service in person, and I don't think we should also shun anyone for wanting to stay at home. Again, you have your personal conviction for that, and I think you should respect your brother or sister that's going about loving your neighbor. So
Yeah,
that's just my answer on that.
yeah. Right or wrong, I'm going to give you a very pastoral answer. And my pastoral answer would be I do believe that if you violate, maybe that's too strong a language, but let me start here. The writer of Hebrews, in Hebrews chapter 10, there's this uh, verse that everybody runs to. Hebrews 10:25, do not forsake the gathering of believers or the assembly of believers. Why does the writer write that, right? Well, he writes that because in this time, there were people who were believing a few different things. One of those things was like, Jesus is coming back, and you don't want to spend all of your time just going to this assembly when Jesus could come back at any moment. And do you want to be right here and doing this particular thing? Another thing was, as time was going and Jesus didn't come back in 30 days or 60 days or whatever, people were starting to lose faith. So what would happen is, in the same way they do today, when sin comes in your life, you're like, all right, let me pull away. When you have doubts, you're like, all right, I don't really feel like going to church anymore. Like, when people start getting on your nerves, I ain't even gonna go no more. When there's infighting, there's people who got drama in the church. Yeah, I ain't signed up for all that. I don't even want to. And what the writer in Hebrews chapter 10 is trying to impress upon them is that that's the very time you should be in the assembly. Like, when you have problems with other people. Well, how can you live out the love one another's except for when those people are in front of you, right? How can other people be a part of that? How can you emphasize the unity that you have as Christians if it's not challenged and displayed that you have that unity together? When he gets to verse 25 of Hebrews 10, he's already said these other things, which is like in verse 19, he says, therefore, brothers and sisters, since we have boldness to enter the sanctuary, which, at one time they could not enter the sanctuary, but they have this boldness through the blood of Jesus Christ. Then later on, he's basically saying, why don't you celebrate this opportunity? And the reason why he can say it in that way is because all of us have that boldness through Jesus together, not individually, through Jesus together. So the implication is, when he says, do not forsake the gathering, as some of you have gotten used to, or not neglecting the gathering, as some of you are in the habit of, but encouraging each other, and all the more as you see the day approaching. He's basically saying, you need more of each other as this life is going on. You need more of each other as we are getting to the point where Jesus is going to return. You need more of each other as this pandemic is hitting. You don't need less of each other. Like, as you go scroll through your timeline every day and you see death all day, every day, you don't need less of other believers. You actually need more. You don't need less love. You actually need more love. And that's why I would say anyone who's forsaking the gathering, you're not violating a command, but you are going against an exhortation of holiness, which is that you cleave to the body of Christ. You don't run away from the body of Christ. God has saved, I'm preaching right now, Jesus has saved us to a collective faith. Yes, you make an individual decision, but you are a part of a collective body. So anytime you're pulling away from that body, you're actually robbing the body of your presence. There's a ministry of presence, and we should observe that. So I would encourage all of us, hey, if you can be in the presence, if you can be in the assembly, go. And yeah, you have fears. Like, we're about to go back, right? In the next week or so. And I have fears. I'm just going to be honest. As the pastor, I don't want to get COVID again. I don't want my daughter to get it. I don't want it to spread in our church. But should those fears be greater than our love for each other? Because in 1 John, it says that fear is wiped out by a multitude of love. That love casts out all fear. I mixed two passages. My bad. I was thinking about Peter. But love casts out all fear. Boom. That's my 5-minute take on that.
You good? So I don't know if you want to spell this out. Me personally, I agree with what you're saying. I still think if some people, not because of fear, but because of health reasons, if they have a compromised immune system, or they don't want to get a family member sick, I can understand them staying home.
Yeah.
I just, like I said, I agree with everything you said, but I also go ahead.
And to speak to that, like, there's a very important word in that text. It says, as some of you have a habit of doing, right? So it's one thing that if there's a season in your life where you're sick and or something's going on where you take a break, like that's one thing. But when it becomes habitual, when it becomes something that's natural to you, when it becomes something that you're not even thinking about anymore, you're just like, I'm just not going. Uh, that is when I believe you're tiptoeing in sin.
No, I agree. I just wanted to put it out there because people would take the sound bites. Even me, I don't want to say
Yeah,
people. I do sound bites for controversy. I'm not even gonna lie. Like we keep it honest with y'all.
yeah.
I do sound bites for controversy just to get people here in hopes that they're gonna watch the full podcast. But
If you
yeah,
can go to church, you should go.
that's all I'm saying. I agree. Be safe. Be safe. And even with the whole thing, like there's some people that's like, I'm not wearing a mask. It's like, bro, again, if you going to a public place, I'm going to say church because that's what we're talking about. A part of loving your brother and sister, if you can, in that wear the mask.
Yeah,
If CDC is saying that this can help prevent the spread of the virus, wearing a mask for 2 or 3 hours is not going to kill you.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
now, if you, I was about to say outside of the church, but that's still not love your brother and sister. I don't know. And I have to, all right, let me be honest with that. Because at work, me working, being a delivery driver, I don't wear a mask all the time. But there's times where there's certain businesses I know they have it on the doors or if they're asking, like we ask that you put a mask on. If I see the sign, I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'm only gonna be here for 5 seconds. I put it on.
right.
If I don't see it, then I'm not tripping about it. But again, I'm just putting I ain't gonna say my sins out there. I want to be real too. I don't want to seem like I'm just being preachy. I know I don't have it on all the time, but if
Yeah,
I see someone asking to do it, I'm going to do it.
yeah.
So
I
yeah,
dig that, man. I think we have to be. It's so interesting. Like, the American gospel has us focused on ourselves. So it's like, man, think about your rights. Think about you and how important these things are to you. And the gospel of the Bible, I don't know of many places where Jesus is like, think about what's best for you. Like
for real.
to make sure nobody infringes upon your rights. Like Peter is like, yeah, I know Nero's trying to kill me, but like pray for those who are pray for those who have leadership over you. Pray for those in the government, even the emperor who tried to kill us. Like pray for those people. Like, this is why people don't like Christianity, because they're like, and this is why the American gospel is so appealing. Because the American gospel says I can have the grace of God who loves me and cares for me and blah, blah, blah. And I can fight for my own rights and personal privileges and it
Yeah.
be better than the collective rights of everybody else, right? So, part of being a part of an assembly or a part of a church or being a Christian, period, is saying I'm willing to die. I'm willing to die to myself for this particular thing, And if you're not willing to die to yourself, unfortunately, in these days, you can just find another church that where you don't have to.
Yeah, and that's scary, man. Like if y'all don't get anything from every podcast that we put out, please let the word impact you. Don't go in there, and change stuff around to fit you. Like read the stuff in the context, do your homework and understand what was the setting of what was said and let it impact you. Don't just read it like, oh, this supports what I'm saying, so I'm good.
Yeah.
Don't go in the Bible looking for things to support what you're saying. Let the Bible, like, it's a double-edged sword. There's some things that if you really walk in this thing that's going to support what you're doing, but there's going to be some things that's going to convict you at the same time.
Right.
And don't try to run from that. Let it do the work that it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
So,
And to play Judas's advocate for a second, um, um, there are some churches that would nail Hebrews 10:25 into your head. Do not forsake the gathering of believers. And yet they violate it in the same way because whenever they do communion, they don't bring in all of the volunteers who were serving in kids' church. They
mm,
don't they don't require their worship musicians to be a part of the gathering after they, perform in worship or they lead in worship. Like there are multiple ways that we can forsake the gathering. And the emphasis in Hebrews 10 and a lot of other passages is unity, right? That's why that's why we should be taking communion together. That's why we shouldn't take communion apart from one another. Like, I'm not going to deliver you a communion cup by yourself. Yeah, because you're a part of a collective faith. This is a celebration that we do together. Like, this is how we should live this out. The blood covers all of us. It doesn't just cover you. Like, it covers all of us. And God has called us to celebrate that together. So I think there are other ways that people violate that. But all that makes me think, like, man, if the church is the assembly of believers, right? And it's difficult to do that online, what does it mean to be a Christian? Period. And what does it mean to be a Christian in this COVID age, this digital age? Because I think there's a lot of people who like have gotten saved during this time, and like, but I wonder how they would classify or how they would describe what a Christian is.
I think I want to mess up your segue, brother.
Okay.
Let's stay there for the next episode.
I
think
know.
we
No, I'm joking.
no, you did a wonderful job segueing, but I think that should be the next episode because
Okay.
I have an idea of how we could go about doing that.
Sounds
So,
good.
what's the time? What we at now? About 30 minutes?
Man,
40?
we got 36 minutes, man. That was a good little talk about the church.
That's what I'm saying. I think that was good. I think
Yeah.
So. Join back in for we ain't in it. I'm just saying join back in for the next episode.
For sure. We're gonna talk about what it means to be a Christian.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. But I hope Kim, Miss Thomas, Kim Thomas, I pray we answered your question.
Yeah.
Again, we're just two fellas having a conversation. We
Right.
ain't saying we got all the right answers, but we stick to the Bible
Let's
where we
talk
give
about
our answers. Go ahead, bro.
before we wrap up, let's talk about how we've been challenged on that, right? Because both of us follow this account that is there's a guy who's viral right now. He's killing it. He's viral on TikTok, he's viral on YouTube, and he calls what he does a church. And every week there are tens of thousands of people who engage his sermons, engage his content. He preaches, and I've listened to his sermons, like he's preaching the gospel. Like, it's not like he's like on some funny stuff, but it is challenging. Like, how do you look at that? Because he doesn't know those people he's serving. Like, I don't know if let me preface this by saying, I don't know if he has like an internal circle that's digital that he does as well. But from what we can see, he doesn't know those 20,000 people who are viewing his content. Would you call that a church?
All right. So again, being honest, you remember at the time I thought I would have said that was a church. Understanding what a church is and what we just talked about it in this podcast episode, I wouldn't say that that's a church. My personal opinion, because it's really hard, like you say, when you get over 70 to say that you're really shepherding these people in a way that's going to truly impact them. I'm not saying you can't, and I'm pretty sure this fella's doing a great job. I've seen him as well, but I will be hesitant.
Let's call him.
Go ahead.
Let's go ahead and call him out because we don't.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
Yeah, because
I'm being serious.
No, yeah, I'm very serious because we want to give props where we have props. Like, we don't want to shroud it as if we don't want y'all to know who these people are. We want you to know who we're talking about. And it's not because we don't want to criticize. We're actually like just kicking the ball around. Like, we're really trying to figure it out. So, man, y'all go check him out and go follow him because he has great content. Amen, Alex. Go follow him on TikTok and Instagram and go follow his YouTube channel. He has a great ministry. I love his teaching ministry. I think he has done something that I wish we could figure out how to do, is like leverage social media and TikTok to really get the message of the gospel out there further. It's just something that we've wondered about. Like, we're not critical. Like, we're not trying to be critical. We're actually just, the Lord is using him to make us think about this even more.
Okay, well, it's out there. So with that being said, no, sis, with that being said, this is not a bash. We actually, as Byron just said, we think what you're doing is dope.
Yeah.
We're just asking ourselves, this is between us and then, audience is watching our conversation. Is that church? I personally, I will be hesitant to call that a church. Hopefully, I don't know, man. If you see this and you reach out, like Byron said, you may be having like small Zoom meetings with like 20 to 30 people throughout the week, something that we may not be seeing. I don't know what is, and he may have people under him doing it. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it would be dope if you could reach out and let us know what you're doing. We would love to have you on the podcast. But from what we're seeing, I will be hesitant on calling that a church, but he is impacting the kingdom because I know a
Yeah.
lot of people come across his content and he's causing them to, think about the word differently, think about Christ differently,
Yeah.
and they're definitely engaging. So
Yeah.
props for doing that, but calling
For
it a church,
sure.
I will be hesitant. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, I already said my piece. I think in the beginning when we started having this conversation, Ty and I were flip flopped. Like I was the one saying, like, no, it's not a church. It's a ministry. It's an online ministry. It's dope, but it's not a church. And Ty was like, I kind of see it as a church. And I think now Ty's more like, I don't consider it a church. And me, my answer is I don't know. I don't know. I'm challenged by it, and I like that. Like I think this is what we need. We need to wrestle with these things. There's a guy named Brady Shearer. He talks about how like we're in the biggest communication shift that we've been in the last 500 years, and online ministry is going to be integral to what we do as Christians. The question is, should it be center of what we should do as Christians? And I really don't know. I know for me personally, in which I think, like Ty said, you should take your personal convictions as long as they're biblical. You should, work through those things. And me personally, when I think about the role of a pastor and the associations to the image of a shepherd, when I think about the role of the loved one, like the one another's, the dozens of one another's that are spoken of about the church, when I think about exercising spiritual gifts and that being in the context of the church, not outside of the church, when I think about all of those things, I'm challenged. I have a hard time believing that you can do that outside of personal relationship and outside of being in front of each other. But that Greek word ecclesia, it doesn't mean gather in person. It just says the assembly. It doesn't mean assembled in person. That obviously is the implication, but that's why I keep wanting to say I'm challenged by it. And shout out to Amen Alex, man. I gotta keep saying it. I love your ministry, bro. You're doing great things. I'm stealing some stuff from you, but you also got
I
to
would
have
say still, man, you taking all the goods we take. That is stealing. I got convicted.
A buddy of mine told me the other day, it's not stealing if you make people aware of it. So
okay,
I'm officially
like
making you aware of it. Another thing is like, man, you got to have stamina to do this online ministry thing.
Boy, okay,
it's hard,
yes,
bro.
Listen,
I don't have it. I don't. I struggle with it. Like me and Ty do this podcast. We are on a once a week type deal right now. I could not imagine doing this all the time. Like it would be really tough for me.
Oh, it's coming, my brother.
No, it's not.
Maybe no. I'm saying, bro, as we continue to grow,
yeah.
I'm not saying we're gonna be doing the podcast every day, but maybe more than once a week. If we got more time on our hands and we got, what I'm saying, the financial freedom, like why not? But I mean, you do need balance. So because Byron knows me, I could get it to 7 days a week. We need it.
just like you started with this, right? What's the reason why you don't like online church? Well, it's because you're not in the presence of people.
Correct.
So like if I spend the majority of my week doing stuff for people who I'm not going to be in the presence of, it's not going to give me any energy. Like what gives me energy is when I meet somebody for a coffee, or when we sit down and have a meeting together, or like when we hang out, like me and Ty, when we record this podcast, we hang out an hour before and usually like an hour after. I don't get my energy from what we're doing on camera. I get my energy from what we do before and after. So,
which is true.
Yeah. So anyway,
I just want to let y'all know, Byron L. Cogdell is a word ninja. He knows how to come in and slice your words up and make you about face to the things that you say. He's a word ninja, man. I say something, he'd be like, well, and then I hear his piece and I'm like, dang.
Nah,
I know nothing, y'all. Take what I say with a grain of salt.
Nah, that's not true, man. That's not true. We do well with each other. Just like that last topic about Amen Alex, like we were on opposite ends. Like when you first when we first talked about it, you brought up some stuff about him that made me think like, I don't know, maybe I should pay more attention to this. So
But that's what I'm saying. You may be doing about face, but not again. I'm playing, obviously, guys. But I don't know. That's what brotherhood is about. We challenge it. We're not yes men to each other. That's one thing we're definitely not. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, one thing, I don't know if we're wrapping up, but if we are, I do want to say this. One thing that is very clear in the text about the church is not just that it's the assembly, but it's the called out ones, right? So more than anything, you should embrace that as a Christian who assembles with other Christians. Does it look like you're called out? Does it look like you blend into the world, or does it look like you called out? Is it Matthew 5, you're salt and light of the earth, or are you being trampled over because you look just like everything else, right? And I think that's where the church has its power, that the church is not like everything else. You know, we use these synonyms all the time, or these word pictures all the time. That's not the word I'm trying to come up with, but I can't think of it. But we say the church is it's not a social club. It's not this, it's not that. But yet often we act just like that. And that's why I like for us to say the church is a family. We're a family. Every family is unique. Every family is different. Every family has kind of like criteria for what it means to be family. But every family loves their guest, or a healthy family loves its guests well and wants its guests to become family as well. So I hope and pray that if you're a part of a digital ministry or a physical ministry or both, that they are doing that.
I agree. Oh yeah.
Shout out to
man.
Jakes.
So, is that him?
Nah. I was just, we talked about online ministry, and let me give a shout out to all of the people who spend their Sunday mornings watching TD Jakes, Mike Todd, and Transformation Church. So
Pastor Mason
Betha. Shout out to all the people who have churches on Clubhouse, and taking offerings every week.
Shout out to the TikTok pastors, Instagram pastors.
Yeah. The first few I was being facetious. The latter few I'm kind of on, So.
All right. Well, thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of He's the Pastor, I'm the Rapper podcast. I'm obviously the rapper. My name is Ty Van, aka Teddy Crucifix, aka your pastor's favorite rapper. You can follow me on all social media platforms at I am Ty Van. I have a single out right now called I Apologize. Please stream that for your boy. Help me get a couple of dollars in my pocket.
Yes,
I release a verse every Wednesday, B-Day Safe Wednesdays, on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. This is Ty Van on YouTube. You can find that. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe.
Yes, sir.
If you're listening to this audibly, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts to help people find the podcast. Go ahead, Byron.
Yeah. My name is Byron L. Cogdell on everything. That's the name that my mom and my dad gave me. Yeah, you can follow me on everything, but I'm not that entertaining. But if you do want to follow a ministry that I believe will bless your life, go ahead and give us a follow at Identity Daytona. We are in the process of relaunching this church in Daytona Beach, and I think it's going to be some big things that'll bless you coming up. We just spoke kind of critically about people who go to church online, but you can join us online, and you would join us via Zoom. So you're not just a participant, inactive participant, but you'll be an active participant. If you want to do that, go to our page, Identity Daytona, click the links in the bio. It'll get you right there. I think that's all I got.
I think we need to put the link. We got the links all in the bio box. We need to put the link for the Zoom so people can do that. Also, if you go to our YouTube page, I have some playlists of Byron's sermons. I also have a playlist of all the verses I release Wednesday. You can watch that, view that, let us know how you like those things. I think that's it, my brother.
All right. Let's go.
We out.